Communication Company Limited, located in Stuart Castle, Duncan's Trelawney, Jamaica. We broadcast on FM 96.7 locally and is heard worldwide on fitfmja.com. Our mission is to amplify diverse voices and opinions, inform, educate, entertain, and engage listeners of all ages and lifestyle while promoting responsible community development. Fit FM 96.7, your life, your music.
Are you struggling with loneliness? Feeling depressed? Are you searching for a purpose to live? Are you ready to tap into your inner greatness? Ready to soar to your full potential? Come and be inspired. Join me, Dr. Asha Mwendo, on Healing Moment inside Gospel and Soul every Wednesday, 6 p.m., where we will help you to understand your purpose. We will help you to find your wind. We'll show you how to open your wings and fly. Healing Moments, Fit FM 96.7, your life, your music. Good evening, my people. How are we this evening? I hope you have been having a good week so far. And as we settle down into the midweek and we go over to the hump and move forward, I know for this evening, it doesn't matter how you were feeling before just now, you're going to have an awesome program that's going to tide you over until next week, Wednesday again. Look at that. So I want to big up DJ Snow. Thank you for setting the pace and keeping the rhythm flowing and keeping the good vibes going. Right. So, welcome this evening. I'm your girl, Dr. Asha Mwendo, on Healing Moments on Fit FM 96.7, your life, your music. And this evening's program is brought to you by Wellness in Motion. So, as usual, I want to let you know that Healing Moments stand and join for the call against violence against our women. We want it to go. We want to be eliminated. At least start reducing the numbers. And of course, for this evening, my guest will be Kaikua Tage. We had her last week, and what an evening we had! Wow! And the feedback is great. I will share some of the feedback I got with you later on as we get into the program. But listen to me. This evening, we're going to start off talking about the power of femininity and a whole lot more. So, you don't want to miss this, and you don't want your friends and family to miss it either. So, you know the drill. You're going to take a sip, get your pen, call a friend, and listen to this music until we come right back.
We wanna go and Bakaya. We wanna go and Dali Bakaya. We wanna lick some Kali Bakaya. We wanna lick some Kali Bakaya. Bakaya, 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 Bakaya. Me and my honey, my sweet little bunny, everything's sunny, better than money. We better hurry, but not to worry.
The Spin FM 96.7.
Pepper and curry, you won't be sorry. I wanna see my mommy. Bakaya. I wanna see my mommy. Bakaya. I wanna meet my daddy. Bakaya. I wanna meet my daddy. Bakaya. Bakaya, 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 Bakaya. Plenty of leverage.
Yes, welcome back to Healing Moments. And I am your girl, Dr. Asha Mwendo. A little from now, you will understand the meaning and why we play that song. Somebody will tell you all about it, but I won't tell you just now. Okay, we're going to our Let's Talk. And just for a few seconds, I'm going to talk about COVID, not for very long. I am not doing much talking about COVID these days because we hear it, we know it, and we ain't doing it. We ain't doing what we need to do. So I just want to remind persons, because I have a number of friends, and I'm hearing about another one this evening, who have caregivers looking after their senior citizens at home, and the caregivers are up and about not doing what they are supposed to do and taking COVID to the people they are supposed to be taking care of. Come on, let's be more responsible in our actions, because what we do affect those that are around us. We need to take serious consideration of everyone else. And I noticed the Prime Minister sent out his notice about some changes. I have my opinions about it, but I will not say anything on it. I will leave it alone. We will have to live with our situations and live with our circumstances. However, I have my own opinion, but I know it's not very popular, so I will keep it to myself just for this evening. I will rant and rave another time. But for this evening, in our Let's Talk session, brought to you, of course, by Wellness in Motion, I want to talk about our attitude to our present, our attitude in our present circumstances now will influence is and impact our lives. And to quote Winston Churchill, he says, attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference. And that is so true. So being self-aware and always doing an attitude check will guide you how you react and interact with the people and the situations around you. Your attitude affects your relationships. And some of us sometimes wonder why everybody they go on. So take a attitude check. Maybe it's not everybody. Maybe it's you that is impacting everybody else. It affects how you perceive, how you look at others and events, and it influences how people look at you, your attitude. And we all have an attitude, but what does your attitude say about you? So, right now, I want you to take a moment and look at your attitude. For argument's sake, towards the lockdown, how are you looking at it? What is your attitude towards it? COVID-19, what kind of attitude are you taking to the table when you're dealing with COVID-19 and its impacts? To life in general, what kind of attitude are you displaying? How is your attitude impacting your altitude? How is your attitude impacting your peace of mind? Because you have that power to decide how you approach and how you look at things, right? Are you feeling trapped, free, angry or joyful, resentful or content, negative or positive, pessimistic or hopeful? All of this, you get my drift? All of this is determined by your attitude and how you look at life. COVID is here, but are you going to get up every day, as some persons are allowing it to happen to them, to lead them into depression? Or are you going to look at it to say, okay, we have to deal with this, and so therefore I have to create a frame of mind in how I approach it that I can have the best result for my day. So now I'm going to ask you to stop right where you are for a moment and do an attitude check. Look at yourself. How are you feeling? How are you approaching things? If you realize you're influenced more by negativity than positivity, you need an attitude adjustment. I told someone this evening, earlier today, that I have not gotten angry in a very long time. And the person said to me, you're not for real. Getting angry is a choice. And I have decided for going forward as much as humanly possible and with the help of the divine, I will not get angry. Things will happen and I will have to deal with it. I might become annoyed. But I will, as soon as the annoyance starts to grow, I will know to do an attitude check and a perception check and how to control myself. And so I choose not to get angry. A lot of things happening that could make me angry, but I choose not to. And it's a choice. And anger, that attitude of anger, it's really a choice that leads to this emotion that destroys you and destroy your relationship. It is a choice, right? You will be surprised how the dark clouds start to roll away and others may even start liking your company if you change your attitude. And if you need support in changing your attitude, ask for help. Help is available because you do not have to walk around negative and angry and want to strangle everybody. Guess what? COVID is here. And I heard a song recently with Jenny down in St. Elizabeth, down in Black River. And, the line in the song made me laugh when they said, COVID come here, pamphlet with one white woman, you know. So, yes, we might can blame so one person carried come, But at the whole of we and we misbehave and we refusal to follow regulations, some of us, why it's spreading like wildfire. So while the dragon COVID is hanging around, we now have to make a decision. Are we going to get up and have very bad days because COVID is here? Are we going to have bad days because we have to have lockdown days? Or are we going to try our best to responsibly, and I use that word deliberately, responsibly manage the lockdowns and responsibly manage how we handle the free days that we can overcome the burden of COVID sooner than later. It's kind of getting real late in the day now. So we need to start, pull back, change our approach and our attitude. I'm not telling anybody to take the vaccine. But I'm saying to you, if you know your lifestyle not ready and your lifestyle not right, and you are more likely to get infected more than anything else, take the vaccine. Or start fence up your behavior. Start building your immune system. Ensure you wear your masks at all times. And I wear a cloth mask, and a lot of us wear the cloth mask. But if you know your lifestyle is kind of up and down, stop wearing the cloth masks and start to buy the ones that are more protective if necessary. And I had an experience. I said I was going to talk about COVID, but how can I forget this experience I had? I went into an establishment in Falmouth. I think it was on Friday. And everything was nice. Set out, everything set up for you to have your social distance and everything like that. And so I went in, someone was at the cashier and I had to wait. And so I stood my equal distance and I waited. Now a young man came in who, the young always have life happening right now and they can't wait and everything is an emergency. And so he was trying to go over the person that is already being served and trying to stop me from getting served in time. But that didn't concern me. What concerned me was that he came now standing slap back right beside me. So I said to him, sir, COVID's still keeping. Please, can we have some social distance? And this is a selfish response that I want to share with you. He said, I have had my vaccine recently. However, I catch COVID already. And even if me have it, me no care who catch it from me. That was his response and his attitude. And that is a selfish attitude that is now bringing COVID and causing it to spread all over the place. That decision that because you've had it or because you're having experience from it, everybody else can share your experience. It is not fair and it is not right. I want to say big up again to Samuel, who is watching with us. He said, hi, I'm watching you're from Capital Bypass, Liberia. Movie Union. Awesome. Welcome, Samuel, and welcome to all our guests that are on with us this evening. And I think my special guest has been waiting in the wings. Well, she's not really in the wings, she's up front and personal. And she has been sitting patiently waiting on us. And we're going to bring her into the conversation just now. So my guest don't need a lot of introduction, because she was here with us last week. And we had such a catawampus time. We had an awesome time. So, Kaikua, come in and talk to us. How you doing, girl?
Greetings, everyone. Greetings, Dr. Asha. I'm well. How are you?
I am awesome, girl. I am awesome. So you come in. I'm going to play 2 lines of your song, and then you tell us why that song is special to you. Okay?
We wanna go and dally, backyard. We wanna go and dally, backyard. We wanna lick some Cali, backyard. We wanna lick some Cali, backyard. Backyard.
Yes, yes, yes. To be honest, when you sent this request to me, it's the first time I was hearing this song. Can I tell you? And so you just born the other day. So I don't know how you know it, and I don't know it. So come on, tell us what's going down.
Well, unfortunately, but at the same time, fortunately, my granddad transitioned this year, 10 days after my birthday, and it is such a pivotal song for him and I's relationship. I didn't know that I would think about him as much or miss him as much because we weren't like bun and cheese. But since him transitioning, this song is what reminds me of him. So I wanted to share that.
I'm hearing it for the first time when she sent you. I kind of like it. You know, my dad and the curry thing, and getting together because I think my dad would have liked that. Maybe he. Right. So this. For those on Facebook, if you keep seeing us having little challenges, don't pay it no mind. Just listen to this story and listen to the game that's going on. The good thing is you might not see me all the time, but you're seeing our guests, and that's what matters. Okay. So let's rock and roll. So last week we were on and we talked about celibacy girls that I got before we go into what we're going to talk about this evening. Okay.
Can you repeat that, please?
Okay, I'm saying to you, I'm going to read you some feedbacks that I got from some of our listeners. I won't read all, just about 3 or 4 of our listeners. And then we move into what we're going to talk about today as we're transitioning. So one of my listeners sent in and said, celibacy is a good way to balance one's spirit and clean one's yoni. Okay. Another one says, I have chosen to do celibacy. So the person twin, the Nazarene journey, and celibacy together for 7 years. And he says, I am almost done now, and I have decided to write my journey. When I am complete, I will ask you to send to your guest that she can write me a forward message for putting on my book. So that's an offer coming up for you when he is complete. Another one says, my husband and I practiced celibacy for before marriage for 3 years, and it was worth the wait. And I wasn't a young girl either. And she says, recalibration of your divine femininity works at any age. And that is awesome feedback that we got. There was so much more. Maybe who knows what next time we will read the others. And I'm expecting we're going to get a lot of feedbacks this evening, right? So let's go into this evening and what we are going to talk about. So I'm not going to tell the guests what we're going to talk about. I'm going to, the listeners, sorry listeners, I'm not going to tell our listeners what we're talking about this evening. I'm going to let you tell the listeners what we are talking about this evening. So Kaikawa, what are we talking about this evening?
Okay, so this evening I decided to talk about the power of femininity because we live in a patriarchal society and it just feels like we're at war right now. Men are against women, there's hatred between each other. For what reason, I'm unaware of. So I wanted to bring to the forefront the importance of femininity. Our world navigates on masculinity anyway, so I think it's important to highlight the benefits and the beauty and the necessity of femininity, alongside talking about beauty from a cultural perspective. Because again, I just think that we're being forced to see the world by media's propaganda, and the perspective is very slim. So I wanted to offer up an alternative cultural perspective that will, fingers crossed, help our young sisters.
Awesome. So I want to ask you first, when you say femininity, what do you mean? Just because we're born a woman, or there's more to it?
No, absolutely. So men and women both possess femininity. Okay, so I always go back to the yin and yang principle. So it's an East Asian Yeah, it's an East Asian principle that talks about masculine principles and feminine principles. For the
Mhm.
most part, many women are feminine dominant, and for the most part, many men are masculine dominant and
Mhm.
being with feminine recessiveness. So it's not, you can be a woman and be very masculine, you can be very logical, you can be very demanding, you can take up space, you can enjoy being outside, you can exert a lot in this physical world. So you have you are under the sex of female, but you have masculine energy around you.
Okay. And I like that. So, and that is one of the things that sometimes we used to define people to say she manish e or him who manish e. And then sometimes we label persons wrongly just because of the energy and the force that empowers them, whether it's femininity or masculinity. Right. And so that is highly misunderstood a lot. So tell us a little bit more of what you have come to understand, perceive, and want to share about the power, now the power of femininity.
Mm. Okay, so my understanding so far is that despite a lot of women being naturally feminine dominant, because we are in a world that prioritizes masculine principles, so from we're young, it's prioritized to be competitive, to be the tallest, to be the strongest, to be the best, to compete, to achieve. It focuses on all the masculine ideologies, which leaves little space for understanding the significance of being feminine, being soft, being understanding, being
Right.
healing, being mysterious, being compassionate, being sweet, being beautiful. And I think with all things, without balance, it's
Mhm.
always off-putting. So when you incorporate these traits that are naturally ours, things that are a blessing, life will just run so much more smoother and effortless because we are bringing things into balance.
Amen. I like how you put it. And so we understand that every one of us have both principles in our lives, but one principle is stronger than the other. And so this evening, you're highlighting the fact that the woman femininity principle is powerful. And so tell us some of the power of this femininity, some of the power that comes with it.
Okay, so whenever I think about the best anecdote or the best story that displays the strength of femininity, I always have to go back to Mama Oshun. Mama Oshun is a West African goddess. She is the goddess of laughter, of wealth, of abundance, of sunflowers, of sensuality. So the story goes that there was God Ogun was ruling over the kingdom, and he is the god of technology. He ensured that civilization was in orderly fashion. For whatever reason, humanity had irritated him to the extent that he said, you know what, no more, I'm packing my bags, I'm leaving. And he deserted civilization and went into the forest. So each of the Orishas are gods, semi-gods, demigods, each of them went into the forest and they used masculinity. So Shango went in there with his power and his masculinity and his might, and Ogun almost cut him. He chased him out because he didn't want that. He didn't want to hear that. Other gods and goddesses came in, but they tried to use the masculine principle. You need to come up for this reason, for that reason. They use logic, they use strength, they use brutality. They so that if you don't do this, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
So Mama Oshun in this particular story, she's soft, she's sweet, she's beautiful, she's welcoming. And when she said that she was going into the forest, none of the other gods thought that she had the ability to win him over.
Okay.
Anyway, she went in there in all of her beauty and her yellow dress and twirling and winding her hips. And Ogun heard her in the forest. She didn't pay him no mind, just continued exploring all of herself, enjoying her dancing, enjoying her beauty. He heard her singing, he heard her laughing. She got close enough to take some honey from her hips that she had on her, she had a pot of honey on her hips. She took a swig of it, rubbed it on his lips and seduced him out of the forest. Once he was out of the forest, he realized how much civilization needed him, and then he returned back to being the king. And I just think that's such an excellent and sweet example of how important femininity is. We look at it as the lesser than energy, or the not need the energy, but actually many occasions when we try to use masculine principle to no avail, it's really because we need to be feminine. So I think that's a beautiful example.
It's really interesting. It's a beautiful example. I like the story. I'll try to remember it. But it's a really good example because, to be honest, if we look at how things work, when we have both working together and when we know how and when to promote one principle over the other or to join principles together, we have better results in our society. And so, of a fact, it is really, story is really powerful. It's really true. And it brings across a powerful message of how, if we understand the power of our femininity, we can achieve more. And it also brings back, even in our general society today, how when brawn and strength and brute force cannot achieve something, a gentle voice, a gentle feminine voice, effeminate voice, a gentle femininity, even from a man, a calmness of spirit, help to change the story, change the game, and change the outcome. And so that is very important. And even for men to understand and for women to understand both principles in their lives. Because sometimes as women, when we realize we have the masculine principle stronger, we tend to think something is wrong with us. And when a man carries the feminine principle a lot, society cause him to think that something is wrong with him. So a man who would use a gentle way of doing things will be undermined. He will be seen as less of a man if he is moving in a crowd and a society who is not able to understand and embrace his feminine principles, not effeminates, but feminine principle. And we need to understand there's a difference. So we're not talking about gender here. We're talking about a principle that guides your emotions, a principle that guides who you are, a principle that guides how you respond to the things that happen in life. And so that we want us to understand that. Well, continue talking with us.
Yeah, so another story that's come to my mind is when I was in secondary school. I went to a very rough secondary school. Anyway, there was two like 16-year-old boys fighting, and it seemed like the fight had no end. They would not stop. They had so much stamina. Anyway, a male Jamaican PE teacher came and he started singing, "If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands." And it completely disintegrated the fight. They were more so focused on the adjustment of frequency of the song, of the laughter, of the lightheartedness of it all. And I think again that's a reflection of they were in the midst of war, but sweet blew it all out. That it helped to balance it out. And then going back, especially like young women of my generation, we need for our men to be emotionally intelligent. I don't know if I was one that coined the term, but basically men, unfortunately, from young are being only allowed to experience certain emotions. They're allowed to express anger, but if they're hurting, if boys are hurting, if boys are sad, we tell them, stop your lies, man up, all of these terms that, and if you keep that in their mind, you program them so when they become adults, they are emotionally constipated. That's the term, emotional constipation. And how does that show up in relationships? It's not healthy. It doesn't benefit the man or the woman. And also women use their masculinity as well. When there are times when we don't want to go to work or, you know, we're tired, but we push that extra force, we use that extra fire, that extra effort in us, that's exerting masculinity. Or when someone's getting on your nerves and you have to let them know what's going on. You have to use your tongue to cut them down and humble them. That's exerting masculinity. So it's
Yeah.
not that all women are 100% feminine and all men are 100% masculine. It's about understanding when and where it is important to use those energies and how it can benefit each individual situation.
Very well said. Very well said. It's so true. Because when we understand the power of each principle in our lives, we react to things differently. And as women, when we know we need to be strong. And one of the things I want to bring forward here, as I say to our men, even to our women who tend to know when to tap into their masculine principle, it's not about raising your voice louder than somebody else. It's using your voice effectively to change the situation. The teacher came along. He sung a nice song that we would expect maybe a female teacher to come and do. But he's a male teacher, but he tapped into this principle of calming, because that's what mothers do. We use the lullabies, we sing the songs that help to calm the spirit. But we also, and in our African situation would bring to us, our ancestral lineage will bring to us, that we also know when to use the songs to stir up the war. We know when to use the songs to get things changing. Just using our principle. We know how, when, and where to use the different principles. And if we tap into our inner energy and if we give into it, we will, the spirit, our spirit within us, the Holy Spirit guiding within us will let us know when and how to tap into each principle, into each concept in order to get things moving, not necessarily get what we want, but get what needs to happen. Because sometimes, even when we are using our feminine principle or masculine principle to get something done, sometimes what we are getting done is not necessarily what we would have wanted, but because we know that's what is best for the general population, general society, for the general group. And that is so, so beautiful. But you continue to share with us. You said you're going to tell us a little bit the lessons of womanhood, and I'm going to leave and you have perspective of beauty by culture. So there's a number of things we want to talk about this evening. So we're going to, while my producer lines up another song, we're not going to skip it. We're going to line up another song, and we wanted to talk a little bit more of the femininity, because as women, we need to truly understand and embrace that part of who we are if we want to move forward. And we need to allow our men to tap into that resource, also that power that they have, the power of femininity, to help to move our society forward. So talk to us a little bit more. I saw you got excited just now.
Yes, I got excited because it's like we're using telepathy. I had the same thoughts. So I was thinking, well, actually, where did I start first exploring masculinity and femininity? And it actually began when I was 15. I spent a summer in Jamaica, and I was in St. Elizabeth, and I was in a really rural area. And so keep in mind, at that time, I had just learned about feminism and I was quite the radical feminist. Nonetheless, I saw a chicken and I saw a rooster. And the rooster used to always be in front of the chicken. And I was so concerned. I was like, where's her liberation? Where's her empowerment? Why can't she do for herself? And no matter where they went, even if they changed direction, the rooster would find a way to always be in the front. So anyways, I continue watching them now. I don't know why, I just can't recall what animal it was. Nonetheless, it was a larger animal than them. The larger animal confronted them. The rooster started making some noise, caw, 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 and it gave the chicken enough time to run away. And it was just like a eureka moment. Like, wow, if the rooster wasn't there to protect her, to inform her that there was a danger around, she would have been none the wiser. And so that to me kind of links to you saying that we both need to play our position, in that, yes, unfortunately, for decades, even centuries, women, Caribbean women, African women, melanated women have had to tap into their masculinity. And it's unfortunate. because other races don't seem to have this issue. Other races get the permission to sit in their divine femininity. So even the trope of the strong black woman, the independent black woman, if you look at the history behind it, like, I don't want anybody identifying me as that. I'm not that at all. I As humans, we are naturally social beings. And so if the situation calls for us to be independent, we have to make use with what we have. Nonetheless, that's not what we should be promoting and advertising, especially to our young daughters, that this is the way, this is the archetype that we should be following. So with that being said, going back to the story, as mad as it is, the chicken was in her femininity. She understood that she needed to be behind for that particular reason, and the rooster was in his masculinity and showed the significance of it all. So that was just like a really strong realization for me.
Awesome. And Rosalie Chung says, I don't ever remember seeing a man crying at a funeral in the 50s. However, now it's normal to see a man cry at a funeral. And that's very liberating to hear coming forward, because there were times when men have to bottle up these emotions. Some men drop down at funeral because they can't get football first time. They have to pent up these things. And it is true. And I remember when I was in Vienna, I met a young lady and she is from Ethiopia. And a group of them were there from Ethiopia. And I made two really good friends back then. Yeah, we are still good friends. One is from Ethiopia and one is from Pakistan. However, when we were going out one evening, we're leaving where we were and we were going out to eat. And the three of us as women, we got together and we were so excited and we were talking and we were rushing ahead and not even paying attention to the fact that the men were a little way behind us. And then the young lady from Ethiopia, somebody called out to her and she stopped. And so we all stopped. And then she went and spoke with him and then she came back. And she stood and the men went ahead and they were going along. And then the young lady from Pakistan and myself were like, oh, so the man them can't walk behind we, you know? What it's so still a Ethiopia that the woman them have to follow behind. So because you went ahead, you have to call you back. And we were affronted by the whole thought. But then she responded by saying, it is normal for us as women in Ethiopia to recognize the fact that we are women and it is easy for us to be attacked. It is easy for someone to take disadvantage of us. And so back in Ethiopia now, with my husband and everybody, we don't really walk behind each other anymore. It's not a demand. But what he's saying to us, we are in a strange country. And before he called out to her, some men had stepped to us. And so, funny enough, all three of us as ladies that were walking were all married women. And so these guys had stepped to us and we tried our best to simply, easily, get over the situation. And they were a bit demanding to us. And then they were speaking some languages too, which we don't know their language. And so we don't know what they were saying to each other. And they were like threatening to us. But when they saw the men coming up towards us, they stepped away. And so upon that, she was called and then the men went ahead. And so right away, we calmed down and we said, oh, it's true. Having the men going ahead of us will let other men think twice. Even though we're in a strange country, will help them to think twice before approaching us. So the principle was really good that the masculine principle now needed to rise, that it can affect the feminine principle. And so we have to understand the changes and the needs and how we hip and fall as a society, as I would say, and how we hip and fall even in the home. Who leads at this time, and understanding our femininity and our masculinity helps to have better relationships. It helps. It really do help. So we're going to play a little bit of music and then we transition over to another lesson.
Natural beauty, Tell, no I, Never been someone shy until I seen your eyes. Still I had to try, yeah. Oh yes, let me get my words right and then approach you. Woman, I'll treat you like a man is supposed to. You'll never have to cry, no. I know everyone can relate to when they find a special someone. And she's royal, yeah, so royal. And I want her in my life. I never knew anyone so one of a kind. No, the way she moves to her own beat, she has the qualities of a queen. She's a queen. Ooh, ooh, what a natural beauty. No need no makeup to be a cutie. She's a queen. She's a queen. And when they ask what a good woman's made of, she's not afraid and ashamed of who she is. She's royal, yeah, so royal. And I need her in my life. I never knew anyone so one of a kind until the night that I seen your eyes. Oh, my queen, so supreme. I can see it in her eyes.
Yes, yes, yes. Welcome back. You remember now you're listening to Healing Moments on Fit FM 96.7, your life, your music. And my guest this evening is Kaiko Taja, and we are having a wonderful, wonderful conversation. To the persons on Facebook and YouTube who are not able to see me, we apologize. We're having some technical challenges with the camera, but I am glad you're able to see my guests, and that is what matters this evening. You can hear me and you can see my guests and hear us both. And so we do apologize. We know you come to on Facebook because you want to see us, but you know how life is. We have challenges as we go along. We do not want to pause the program to try to adjust anything and lose anything. So we're going to continue as is, and hopefully next week everything will be okay. But please continue to join the conversation with us. I can see your messages. And that's what is important, right? And you can hear us. So let's rock and roll and come back together. So now, my dear guest, my beautiful young lady, my royal young lady, tell us this evening now, we're going to talk a little bit now about the lessons of womanhood.
Well, firstly, I would like to say that I am still very much so a young woman. I'm not even 30 yet. And so I'm an initiate into womanhood. I'm still in the learning stage. I always say that I'm studious. When I think about women, I think about the women that surrounded me, the women that I grew up with, and all their varying lessons. First and foremost, I have to shout out my mum. My mum is a beautiful, powerful, in a way, very quietly powerful woman. But I also shout out all my aunties, my sisters, my grandmothers, my nan, my mum's friends, my neighbors. Each of these women have taught me various lessons, and I wouldn't be the student of womanhood that I am today without them. They've been I think another beautiful thing is actually, and I've written this in my notes as well, that the women that I have, or what I refer to them as my village women, the village women that I have, they are not one type. I have women that have locks and eat vegan food and listen to Lauryn Hill. I have aunties that are really like business orientated and focused and money driven. There's such a varying archetype of them, and that leads on to one of the resources that I found, which is Aisha K. Fames. She was a phenomenal woman who transitioned in June. she has a website called womenlovepower.com, and they talk about the 7 ancient archetypes of femininity. And I think it's such a powerful resource when identifying what type of woman you naturally are, because we are often, when we look at the media, oftentimes you see femininity being synonymous for sexuality and being seductive and being sensual, but
Yeah.
many women are not like that. Many women are not accustomed to their sexuality, or they feel uncomfortable playing into that energy. But there are 6 other archetypes. There's the huntress, there's the mother, there's the queen. There's so many archetypes, and I would highly recommend looking into that website, taking the quiz, seeing what resonates, exploring the website, because there's a lot of information that will help you to tap into your womanhood.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And it is interesting when you talk about understanding the power of a woman, understanding our femininity against sexuality, because some persons don't realize that they are not one and the same. They are different. Your sexuality is different from your femininity. And so a lot of persons do not realize that. It's good that you brought it forward, because selling products, women's femininity is not used a lot to sell anything, or sexuality is what is used to sell a car. And sometimes I remember recently, a gentleman was saying to me, I don't know what a naked woman have to do with a strong drink. And I was saying to him, think about it. When you see this sexy woman loving this strong drink, what do you want to do? You want to drink that drink because you want to become appealing to the women. It's the same thing when they want to sell something to women. They'll use a man with six pack and buff chests and strong muscles. How many men walking around looking like that? Quite few, don't you think? But however, that is what you are used to sell the things. So they are using your sexuality more than your femininity to sell the goods, right? And so it's the same thing with the lessons of womanhood. So talk to us a little bit more, because people don't come on this evening to listen to me, really. It's you that come to listen to. So tell us a little bit more about the lessons of womanhood and understanding how we embrace it or we move forward with it, and share a little bit of the impact of the different women in your life and how they have impacted your journey.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to go back to sexuality being used as an essential part of advertisement. And I think it's such a cop out, because they
Yeah.
are tapping into our primal animalistic urge to connect, but they're using it in a way that is only sexual. And I think we mentioned this last time, that sex and sexual practice used to be a prayer. It's the highest form of prayer. It's about connecting. It's about breathing with your partner. It's about combining 2 people together. So when they just use it like this very root chakra, low vibrational resource to take our money, it's a cop out, as opposed to mentally stimulating us or enticing us in alternative ways. It's easy to use sexuality. Nonetheless, I think also one of my concerns is that this is what our young sisters are being taught. And I
Yes.
think it's so dangerous. They're getting taught the more skin that you reveal, the prettier you are. When really femininity, one of the principles underneath femininity is mystery, the unknown.
Yes.
Sometimes wearing full sleeve and just having a glimpse of a gold necklace, or a sliver of an anklet, that's all that you need. Sometimes more, less is more. You don't have to always have everything out and open. That's what the women around me taught me. Luckily for me, I was surrounded by very natural women. Women that looked into their culture, women that looked into their history, and took that time out before I came. Well, they were already on their journeys before I came, and then we continued our journeys as we both grew together. So, for example, one of the things that my mum did for me is the moment that she found out she was pregnant, she stopped relaxing her hair. That was the sacrifice, one of the many sacrifices that she made for me. And her theory behind that was, You know, when my daughter comes out, I want her to see herself in me. And I just think that's so powerful. And as an extension of that,
Mhm.
that's why I started my locks. Because I know that when I have my babies, I don't want them thinking that the way that they appear is inadequate or less than, especially when they're being force fed constantly. Wear this type of hair. I want them to say, do you know what? No, Mama looks like this, Mummy looks like this, and she's quite all right. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna be who I am naturally and originally and authentically as well.
And that is extremely important. And bringing it forward to talking about our girls and the message we send to them, that is of extreme importance, because our society have become almost wishy-washy, in a sense, in that our women more educated maybe, but seem less powerful. So they know they are more educated, they have more money, and they can spend it. But the way women were revered and respected and admired as strong women, we have lost that somewhere along the line. And we have allowed masculinity to overtake us. But I remember quite a few years ago, growing up in Mandeville, one evening we were having what we call it was a rap session. That's what we call it, right? A rap session. And I growing up, I wear a lot of pants. As if I'm not going to church, I'm in pants. And I used to like my long skirts, long clothes. I used to like those things. And some of my friends used to say to me, "Now you're gonna get all the money, your long skirts and stuff." But I also found out that there was power in dressing like that. Because when I go to some places, I've been to places where, because I have on my pretty long skirt and I was rather slim then, but with a lovely figure, and I used to get things done, and I learned to wear pants more than skirts. Reason being, I find out that when I step out in my pants, unlike what popularity would believe, when I go out in the days in my pants, I maybe get a two or three call too, but not much. But when I wear my skirts and they're flowing and I'm moving along and waving, more men call to me. I have to deal with more of those issues when I dress in my skirts. And so, because when I dress in my skirts and I carry forward growing up as a young woman, I guess my femininity show up more. And when you have on your skirt, to be honest, sometimes you move a little differently. You walk a little differently. You sit a little differently than when you have on your pants. You just run up the stairs. For me, I like to wear my pants. I'm comfortable in it. It have saved me from two incidents in time past that I was glad I was wearing a pants. And I am just very comfortable wearing a pants, but it don't make me feel less of a woman in my pants. And as I would say to persons who would say, I'm wearing a man's clothes, fence up that talk. I don't wear man pants, I wear women pants. And I normally say, if I see a man in the pants that I wear, I think I do too. So when any church brother come to me and say to me, "Oh, you shouldn't wear so much pants because," as a church, I said, "Listen to me. If I see any," and one church brother had asked me once if I saw a man come to church in one of my dresses, what I would think. I would say to him, if he was wearing one of the men dresses, as we'd call them, the men garb, like what the Africans and the Indians would wear, I have no problem with it. If he have on one of the dresses where me wear, me have to ask him a question or two. And if he should see me walking around in the pants that men wear, he is at liberty to ask me a question or two.
Yes.
Or if our femininity shows up sometimes, even by the way we carry ourselves, the way we speak, our masculinity shows up. And there are times when we want the masculinity to, or even as women, to stand forward because it strengthens us and show us in a strong light. Because again, society have not come full circle in understanding the power of femininity. We tend to think we can walk over someone who show their feminine side. And I remember as I was talking about the rap session we had back then, the gentleman that was speaking, senior gentleman, and he said you young girls walking around now in a short skirt and you're just showing off your body. But you see, me now, me wouldn't want no woman we dress up for married to because the packaging is not adequate. So everybody know what the gift is because everybody see everything. I like when my woman is nicely packaged and you wonder what is above her anchor. Then you might wonder what goes up and you wonder. But when you display everything improperly packaged, he had a challenge with it. And there are some men who don't have a challenge with it. But it is up to personality and everything like that. For me, I really don't like to see our ladies walking around. And I normally say they're walking around, shall I go naked clothes? Because they couldn't make up their minds if they wanted to be naked. So they just draw on a little strap to cover something and cover something. And, barely cover possible and everything else. Because they couldn't make up their minds, should I go naked today? So that's why they have on their shall I go naked outfits. That's my word. Right. And to be honest, I have never worn a shall I go naked outfit in all my life, go anywhere. Not even when I was young. I didn't do it because I have my own idiosyncrasies. I don't like to sit and my legs are touching where everybody else's legs have touched before. And your sweat, I don't want to share your personal sweat and all of those things. So I like to cover up that when I sit on a seat, at least the clothes take off the cushion from what you have left on it. So that is my own idiosyncrasies that help me to kind of cover up a lot, and I feel comfortable in a pants stepping out. But this evening I'm wearing a dress. I can't show you guys because you can't see me, hush. But I'm wearing a dress and I wear dresses. I like to wear dresses because even this evening when I put my dress on, I twirled because the feminine side of me come out and I twirl before the mirror and I feel really nice. So when I'm at home, it helps me to feel feminine. And before I throw back to you, I want to say even some men underestimate a woman's strength and her when she shows her masculine side and her strength, he thinks she would not make a good wife. Because I've had men say to me they wouldn't marry me because I am too strong and forceful. But then I teach women how to allow their femininity to lead when they're at home and how to let the masculinity lead in the workplace when it is needed, but also how to use the femininity to use in the workplace when it is also needed. But I teach women when you get home to allow your femininity to come out because you don't have to show anybody your strength or your weakness. The man you marry should have known who you are when he married you. And or when you decide to live together, he should be learning who you are. So you don't have to show anything to the world. You just be you when you're at home. So if I'm out in the road and a rat run across my path, if I catch him, I'm going to kill him. If I'm at home and my husband is there, and even if the rat dead, me calling him to come and do what men do. Change the bulb, catch the rat, or if him dead, take him out. I am allowing him to let his masculinity lead in the home because that's what you want your man to be strong. You want your man to represent as strong. But however, if something happened and he needs to cry, girl, my shoulder coming out faster than anything else. I'm going to support him. So continue talking about the lessons of womanhood as we transition into cultural beauty perspective.
Okay, well, I think the conversation regarding clothes is very interesting and one that I am still exploring. As again, as I said, I am still a young woman, and so growing up, not that I was told that, but I suppose I saw that more conservative dressing is admirable over what I should be doing. But I'm going to be honest, as I get older and I'm exploring and I'm learning about all these beautiful things, I do sometimes like to have a little bit of shoulder out. I don't necessarily show my legs because they're quite chunky, but I'll have a little bit of shoulder. I might wear a pretty earring. You might see a little bosom. And for me, I think my focus is my femininity should override that. I don't think I don't become null or void because you can see a
Right.
little bit of people. My voice, my intellect, my aura, my conversation, how I conduct myself, how I'm sitting, to me, that should be the priority. But I
Yeah.
do understand that there are different cultures, different religions, different backgrounds
Mhm.
that will tell you otherwise. Um, and for a lot of women, being being as you said, half naked or semi-naked is
Mhm.
their version of femininity. And I
Yes.
think that young women, particularly young women, should be allowed that grace period, because I think too many a time older women will see young women dressed very provocatively. I'm using that word loosely, and
Yeah.
automatically label them that they are people. Them too fast. The children are they're too quick. They're too easy. And it might not be that. They're just
True.
exploring what works for them, what doesn't work for them. They're
Mhm.
figuring it out. I think, when we study maths, when you teach your 2-year-old, your 1-year-old how to count from 1 to 10, you don't expect them to be able to do algebra the following day. And I think that same grace should be extended to young women. The older women know that yes, maybe the skirt being just below the knees is more impactful, but young women are figuring it out. And also, I think context is important as well, because times are changing. Now, I'm not gonna, just because I'm a part of the generation doesn't mean that I necessarily agree with all of the changes. Um, I'm quite, to a certain extent, I'm quite traditional, but context and adjustment is needed and explored. And I think that we should give young people, young women, the grace and opportunity to see
Yeah.
how things work out for them. But on the flip side, what I was going to say is yes, wearing a dress is the perfect way to tap into your femininity. And I said it in one of my YouTube videos about the power of femininity, in that, when you wear a house dress, in Somalia, they call them a bati. My friend from Nigeria, she calls it a muumuu, but it's a very loose house dress. You
Mhm.
take off all your clothes, you come back home from a day of work or a day at uni, when you've had to be focused and diligent, and now you're going to rest and be soft and be
Yeah.
easy. You whip off your bra, you fling your palm to the side, you put on that long house dress, and you
Mhm.
feel at ease. There's
Yeah.
freedom, there's peace. And when you feel safe, that's when you are allowed to feel feminine.
Yeah.
Um, there seems to be, I don't know where the issue is, and I'm still exploring it myself and like coming up with all my theories, but men actually want their women to be feminine. But in
Mhm.
order for a woman to be feminine, she has to learn his masculinity to protect her. You can't
Yeah.
be in the trenches and be feminine, because you will die. Right? There's
Yes.
no other way around it. And the same way with men, we want our men to be, especially contemporary women, we want our men to have emotional intelligence and
Mhm.
be compassionate and understanding. But then when they show an ounce of emotion, we start thinking that they're soft and they can't take care of me. So I
Right.
think about is really needed. I can see from the men that I've dated, from my brothers, biological and non-biological, the need for space, for the opportunity to talk about how they're feeling and saying, do you know what, I'm scared, or
Mhm.
I'm nervous that I'm not going to pass my exam, or I don't know if I'm going to be able to have the strength every single day for the rest of my life to maintain someone. Sometimes I need a break. Not saying forever, not saying I'm going to be a bum. I'm just saying I need something to nestle into. That's
Mhm.
okay. We should allow for that. And that's why I go back to the yin and yang principle. If you see the symbol, I suppose I could try to quickly draw it. Just give me 2 seconds.
Yes, right. So as we continue to listen to Kaikua talking about the power of femininity, the lessons of womanhood, and as she will soon transition into the beauty, that is beauty perspective according to culture. It is really a really interesting conversation that we're having. I enjoy talking with her. Goodness gracious, we can't bring her back next week, but I'm quite sure she'll be back sometime soon again as we transition. So Kaikua, yes, continue.
Okay, so this is just an impromptu drawing of the yin and yang principle. So this, no, wait, hold on. The dark side represents the yin principle, but if you look closely, you can see that there's actually white in there, there's masculinity and vice
Yeah.
versa. And that's what I'm saying, in that women are not going to always be feminine and soft.
No.
Sometimes you got to be gangster. The market women, the women that are up at 4 a.m. in the morning, getting
Yes.
their children ready in the market, they are exerting energy, they're exerting their masculinity. The men that have to, if they're women's at work, the men that have to, cook up the little stew or the soup for them, he's in his femininity. It doesn't mean that they are the opposite. They're just tapping into the energy where, when, and where it's needed. And I think being able to understand the balance, and again, I'm still very much so learning, but being able to understand the balance, it manifests in such beautiful ways. So before I went celibate, my first boyfriend, I remember I was opening a tin, and I didn't have the tin opener at the time,
Mhm.
so I was using a knife, and I started to push. And then he was like, Kaiko, let me do that for you. And I thought, do you know what? Let him do that for me, because
Yeah.
this is something that he feels that he can provide me, he can offer me in this moment. If I say no, I've got it, I'm all right, it shuts it down. He's
Yes.
asking to protect me. So let him protect me. Why would I not?
Yes. And it is very important, And as I said, that it brought back to my memory recently. I had a conversation with a lady who she was at home with her husband, and she called me and asked me out of the blue, she asked what I was doing. So I said to her, I'm doing some housework. And she said, your entire family is home. I said, yes. So are your husband saying I watch TV? Not true. And I said, no, man, my husband is helping me around the house. And she said, oh, your husband domesticated. And I said to her, I don't know. I think you got some bad information about me. And she said, what do you mean? I said, I think you think I'm married to a cat or a dog. You're talking about domesticated. And she said, Locksmith, that's why people don't like you. Because say that I said, but you don't ask me if my husband is domesticated. That's an animal. You might ask me if he's open to helping around the house. And I will tell you he might sometime do more around the house than I do. They say, how good is he around the house? I said to her, him can fold fitted sheet. So some women can't fold fitted sheet. So when a man can fold fitted sheet, I mean him know him way around the things. And then she said to me, I feel show off for me. Because my husband saying I read glean and I carry on and he not help me with the work. I said to her, did you ask him? Did you ask him to help you around the house? Did you allow him to believe that as a man, you want his help around the house? Because sometimes as women, we set the wrong pace to say it's a woman's job and I will do it, get out of my way. And after I finished talking with her, she said she went ahead and she asked him to help her with the cleaning of the bathroom. And he helped her to take everything in there to clean the bathroom and then said to her, you can go do the kitchen. I will do the bathroom. And so he was waiting for her to invite him in to the process of tidying up the house. She eventually called me and asked me, how you get him to sit down? Because I know he want to take over everything. And I said to her, you see, you had a good husband. You just didn't give him the chance to show you because your mother teach you, say, man, woman, for do everything around the house. So you're doing it, you're tired, and he is there and it's COVID lockdown, and both of you are in the same space, but he seems to be relaxing because you refuse to ask him to help. Now he's helping, you want to get rid of him. Tell him to sit down now, and let him know how you want the help when you want the help. And that's what we need to do to learn to balance the yin and the yang in our lives. And if we don't have it, pray about it, talk about it until we find our masculine and our femininity balance within our homes. So let's talk a little bit about beauty from a cultural perspective.
Yes, okay, so this topic is particularly sacred to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's important because I'm always thinking about the next generation. I'm
Mm-hmm.
always thinking about the 5-year-old girls, the 10-year-old girls, the 15-year-old girls, and what I can do to help and assist them. So the theory behind it, or my idea, is that, again, going back to what are they seeing? What are our young melanated sisters' definition of beauty?
Yes.
Oftentimes, the ideas or what is being presented to them is very whitewashed, very Eurocentric. So
Mm-hmm.
the beauty standard is extremely high, especially in this day and age, where oftentimes, in order to be considered beautiful, you now have to get extensions and add-ons to yourself. You have to go through
Mhm.
surgery just to be considered beautiful. So we have that. Plus, we have the racist component to it as well.
Mhm.
This Eurocentric perspective that only certain traits are admirable, which is ironic because actually a lot of the traits that are beautiful now are African features, but they're not allowed to be in African skin. I think I don't even want to make reference to them. I'm questioning if I should, but the Kardashians are a perfect example of this. So we have beauty standards being extremely high, higher than ever. Then we have the racist lens on top of it. And then
Mhm.
we have these young girls, elders, so, you know, women in their 20s, 30s, 40s, trying to aspire to become this level of beauty. And what ends up happening? Our young sisters think that it's unattainable, it's impossible to be that amount of beautiful, to reach that level. And so there ends up being this subconscious self hatred,
Mhm.
and they've not even made it out of secondary school yet. And so I'll go into my personal story. I would say I'm the only dark skinned woman in my family. Everybody else is like brown skin or they have a lighter complexion to me. Luckily for me, my mom always had African statues, black figurines. My mum bought this for me for my 20th birthday. Like, this was what I was accustomed to seeing. And so, even though the world, especially when I was growing up in the 90s, was saying to me that tall, thin, light skinned women, white women with straight hair
Mhm.
is beautiful, when I was at home, dark skinned women were beautiful, chunky women were beautiful,
Yes.
Afrocentric features were exalted. So it kind of put me into the mindset that if my mum thinks these are beautiful enough to adorn our home with, then
Mhm.
it's beautiful enough for me. And so again, I mentioned like my aunties, one of my aunties had locks, her daughters have locks, and it allowed for me to understand that there's a beauty outside that I cannot attain. It is going to, if I wanted to achieve it, it would literally mean me changing my physical identity. And
Mhm.
that's not something I'm particularly interested in. Um, so despite my mum having all of these beautiful, you know, artifacts around the house and having women around me that accepted and embraced their natural beauty,
Mhm.
it's like when you go out into the world, there's this evilness. They want to undo all the work that these people, that your people, your family, your tribe have done for you. And
Yes.
so when I was in secondary school, I instantly realized I'm ugly. I am not light skinned. I don't have good hair. I'm ugly. I am not desirable. Boys aren't calling for me. I was 5'7" when I was 10, Dr. Asha. So
Wow.
like
Yes.
I was not the it girl.
Mhm.
And that put such a downer on my self-worth. I constantly felt like I was just less than, like
Mhm.
incapable of being beautiful. And it's just so sad because it was such a mental burden. And then I also, and that was with me having women that embraced me. I remember one of my aunties saying to me, "Oh, your skin is so rich, you can carry any color." I think I was saying, she looks good in pastel pink. And her response back was, "Your skin's so rich, you can carry any color." Those were the compliments that I was accustomed to. Despite that, none of the women in my family being my complexion, I was always, you know, spoken highly of. So
Yes.
then I now think at the age that I am now, what happens to the girls whose mums are constantly getting surgeries, getting extensions in their hair that does
Mhm.
not represent their natural texture or their natural color? What happens to the girls where this conversation is not even being had, where
Mhm.
they're not talking about wearing, you know, they're seeing their moms, their aunties, their grandmas wearing makeup that completely changes their face. It's like
Yes.
a whole different thing. I'm all for makeup that enhances and makes the features that you naturally have amplified, but the changing of the face, you know, to be honest, each to their own. But my concern, or where I focus on, is how does that impact my young sisters?
It is
Um,
true. It is true. And as one of our followers here on Facebook says, Rosalie says, I am concerned. about the bleaching, having to look lighter than your natural skin tone. And it is that inability to accept and embrace beauty in ourselves and in our cultural look that leads us to think that we need to look lighter to be accepted, because that's what society have taught us, that black is not beautiful. But I have a girlfriend who like to say black never crack, you know. So it's, and I want us to get to that place where our concept of beauty is not in black or brown, black or white. It is accepting beauty in your cultural space as you are, learning to see your beauty beyond the outward look. And I remember, and because who how we behave influences even our physical look. I remember once my brother, when we were growing up, he took up to sleeping out, going out at night, coming home late, and took up some bad company and all of that. And I remember one day he walked into the yard, and when he was out in the yard, where the man was sitting on the veranda, and he was out in the yard, and my mom looked at him, and my mom said, "Oh my God, look how sin make me boy no pretty again." I'll never forget it. She could see the drudgery and all the things that he's going through his features, because he was always considered a nice looking young man. But then at that moment, my mom looked at him. She didn't see her son. She saw his behavior through his looks. And she cried in her heart for the boy she knew she once had, to see that beauty coming out of him. And sometimes, because of the cultural practices we behave, how we behave, and the things we embrace, that's what influence our the looks that I talk about. I don't have a problem. I remember, but even though my mom was like that, my mom was pretty liberated, and my cultural background is quite spicy, as I would say, because I have a full-blooded Jew great grandmother. I have a half Indian, half black man, half white man, mix up great grandfather. I have another great grandmother who is half Syrian. And so my family's kind of mixed up, and we have Indian and some other stuff in there. And it's pretty interesting to see the ancestral line that I came down from. But I remember once this young man was, knocking on my door, calling to me often. I really wasn't taken by him at the time, but because I knew it annoyed my mom, I spoke with him. You know how we are when we are young. And because we always say, we mommy don't choose for us, let us choose for ourselves. But I remember one day she looked at the young man, and when he gone, she said to me, "You see how him and me go black and I'm gone black? Not a good man. The blackness I'm gone, and he hand me go show the condition of his heart." And believe you me, that day we laughed until we weak. I said, "Mommy, how he hard for showing and gum?" you know. But it's a perception that we make as a society, how we look at what is beautiful and what is accepted, and then we pass these things on as if they are law.
Yes. Yeah, I'm just thinking when you said pass it on, we're not doing it when these children are teenagers. We're doing it at the day of their
Baby.
birth.
Yes.
Oftentimes we see mums and the grannies looking at the earlobe to see how dark the child's gonna be.
Could be.
And it's just like
Yes.
we need these children to be who they're going to be, or pinching of the nose bridge, pinching. It's just outrageous. And so my solution is, I understand that we are living in a world where a certain beauty is only admired. But I always say, Sankofa, just look back. Do you know who I look like? I look like the women that I come from. That's who I look like. I have the
Yes.
demeanor of my mom. I have the cheekbones of my nan. I have the hands of my grandma. My hips are just like one of my aunties. We are the genetic recycling of the beautiful ancestors that came before us. Keep
Man.
that in mind. One of my major concerns when I was growing up is like how round my face is. It's not sculpted, it's not poised. It's not how they are in the
Mhm.
magazines. And I was so concerned about that. But I remember when I was in one of my one of my first lectures, and they were talking about how round faces are an intrinsically African feature.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, so my face is showing who I come from, my people.
Yes.
Like
Mhm.
slowly, step by step by step. One of the other things is I used to have a gap in my teeth and I closed it when I was 12. And now I wish I never closed it because again, this is a when
Yes.
I told my boyfriend, like one of my boyfriends that was from Nigeria, he said, "Do you know how beautiful that is in my country? Like
Mhm.
it's like
Mhm.
putting your that's like the equivalent of having your a big bosom." And
Yes.
so there are all these small features, our texture of hair, our hairstyles, the way we do our nails, it's the smallest of things, the materials that we wrap our bodies in. Just because the world has forgotten, or not even forgotten, has chosen not to see our beauty, does not mean that it does not exist.
Right.
Your broad nose, your chinky eyes, your full lips, your dark, deep mahogany skin, or your light tan caramel skin, they are a perfect combination of the people that you come from. And I would like for this to be a conversation starter for any mum or woman or man actually that is taking care of young children, specifically girls. Have that conversation with them, engage with them, find out how they feel about themselves. Don't
Yes.
just allow them to be constantly on Instagram, constantly on Twitter, seeing these images and you don't know how they're interpreting it. And one of the things that I think is really powerful is letting them know that they're beautiful before then say I feel ugly. So
Yes.
my sister, when I greet her, yes, Empress, greetings, yes, you're looking beautiful. Look at you. Look like I constantly compliment her because I know that there are movements and places in the world that will not do it for her. So let me be one of the same way how the women that raised me were my village women, they were my buffers for the world. Let me be
Right.
my sister's buffer. Um, and I'm not just to my sister, even girls on the street. If I see them looking stunning, I say, "Oh, Booby, look how your hair looks lovely. Your braids look." And you want to see how their face glows. It's like they ate the sun. They're so happy to
Yes.
see someone that looks like them. Acknowledge them. They're not being acknowledged because their baby hairs are beautiful, but because of the texture, the kinkiness of their hair. I always try to focus on something that the world tries to hide. And
Right.
on that note, I also have a book here as well. This book is by Lupita Nyong'o,
Okay.
and it touches on shadism. Lupita Nyong'o, the actress from Black Panther and many other films, she made this because she often, when she was younger, felt that she was too dark. My mum bought me this book when I was 19, and even when I was 19, reading it made me cry because this is the type of book that I think all little chocolate girls around the world need. So yeah.
Awesome. 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 Can I tell you something, Kaikoa? We have come full circle, and it is time for us to say goodbye to the world for this evening. I never even realized how time was going, how we have been enjoying this conversation that we are having this evening. This sit down is awesome. It gives us a lot to think about, and I'm awaiting the feedbacks that I'll be getting from my listeners this evening. I know it's going to be a good conversation pieces, and they're going to ask me to do different topics because I got some from last week, and I know I'm going to get some more from this week. And so I see us talking again before the year is out, and of course, depending on how COVID goes, I want us to plan that women empowerment circle for our sisters to come together, speak about their journey so far, be empowered to move into 2022 with a positive energy, embracing who they are and building on who they are becoming as they journey. And, as I was saying to a group of young people recently, I know society teaches us that it is not about our destination that we should have, it's the journey. But I also say to them, our destination impacts how we journey. So our destination is just as important as the journey. So thank you for journeying with us this evening. It was wonderful sitting down with you. I look forward to having conversations with you outside of the radio program and when we will get back together again. And so I'm saying to you, my dear beloved, walk good, stay blessed, and we shall talk around the bend again. So stay blessed until such time. Thank you for joining with us. Blessed be. That was my guest, Kaiko. I want to thank her for sitting down with us this evening. What a wonderful conversation we have had, and we had a wonderful time, and I'm quite sure you enjoyed every moment of it. So I am going to go straight into our affirmation because time is well spent. Affirmation for this evening says, "You are more valuable to Him than all the silver, gold, and knows you by name." Let that sink in for a while. Amongst a trillion of people, past, present, and future, the God of all knows you by name. Every hair on your head, every freckle, and every wrinkle on your face is known to Him. You are not a nobody. You are His beloved creation. You are very special in His eyes. Don't allow man to establish your identity. You can only find who your true identity, your true worth in the one who created you. Stay blessed, walk good, and know that you are awesome and important in the eyes of God. This is Dr. Asha Mwendo saying goodbye from Healing Moments on Fit FM 96.7. See you next week, same time.
Na 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 na